This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of the meetings of the Township Council, established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designates the time, date, and place of this public meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We are using an electronic amplifying and recording device in order to obtain a clear and audible record. We request all those wishing to speak be recognized and state your name and address directly to the microphone. The recording device will be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's Office for the preparation of minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Hutchison?
Present.
Ms. Grace? Here. Mr. Mignani?
Here.
Mrs. Stubbs?
She is absent.
Mrs. Winters? Here. Mrs. Strato?
Is excused.
Mr. Mercado?
Present.
Mr. Carlino?
Here.
Mr. Curtis?
Here.
Mr. Lechner?
Here.
Chief Harkins?
Here.
Mr. Chadwell?
Here.
Tonight we have a presentation, swearing in of officers, Chief Harkins and Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, if you'll join us down, Mayor, Deputy Chief Manazzi, and I'd like to call forward Officer Patrick Martina, badge number 319. And it's a great event for us anytime we can honor, stand right here. It's a great thing for us to be able to swear in an officer, to bring on board a new officer to the Gloucester Township Police family. And we got a good one here. We have his brother, who's also an officer here. He's a resident of Gloucester Township. And we're just thrilled to have him on board. He's been doing such a great job. He's completed his field training and he's moving on. But he's not a new officer, as you'll see. He's a 2014 graduate of Highland Regional High School. He was hired by the Gloucester Township Police Department on August 2nd, 2021. Prior to being hired by the Gloucester Township Police Department, Officer Martinez served as a police officer with the Camden County Police Department from 2017 until his date of hire here at Gloucester Township. Officer Martinez enlisted in the New Jersey Army National Guard in 2013, where he achieved the rank of corporal, and he was trained as a joint fire support specialist, guided artillery, right? He was activated in the United States Army and deployed to Somalia in support of Operation Enduring Freedom from March 2019 to November 2019. Officer Martina was awarded the Combat Action Badge in 2019 for an engagement with hostile forces in Somalia on September 30th, 2019. Officer Martina was also awarded the Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, and the Armed Forces Reserve Medal. That wasn't enough for him. In 2021, he transferred to the U.S. Air Force New Jersey Air National Guard, where he continues to serve our country. I'd ask his family to join us for his swearing in. He is joined tonight by his mother, Kelly, his father, Joseph, his sister, Shannon, and his brother, Kevin, who, as I mentioned, was hired as a Gloucester Township police officer in 2020. Mayor, Council President Mercado, I respectfully request we swear in Officer Patrick Martinez as a police officer with the Gloucester Township Police Department. Mr. Mayor. Just move this out of the way real quick.
Officer, if you could please raise your right hand. And before I swear you in, I want to thank you for your service to our country and now your service here to our community. If you could please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Patrick Martinez,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state,
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I further solemnly swear
Further solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all of my responsibilities
all of my responsibilities
as a patrolman
as a patrolman
in the Gloucester Township Police Department
in the Gloucester Township Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God. Congratulations.
Also, now, we also have a presentation, Officer Martinez, because typically when an officer graduates from the police academy, we present them with our Gloucester Township Police mission statement. Each officer at the Gloucester Township Police Department gets this mission statement, gets a copy just as you see here, so that they can proudly hang in their home and they can be reminded of our values and our mission statement for wherever they are. And so we want to present that since Pat is already obviously a sworn officer. We want to present it to him. We, the members of the Gloucester Township Police Department, dedicated ourselves to the community in which we serve. We recognize our badge as a symbol of public faith and accept it as a public trust and hold it true to the ethics of service. As part of our goal, we continually strive to protect the lives and property of the citizens of Gloucester Township, preserve the peace and order of the community through the prevention of crime and apprehension of criminals, be sensitive, understanding, responsive to the needs of the community, foster and maintain a positive public image of the police department within the community, interact with the community by getting organizations, leaders, and citizens involved in the total law enforcement effort, be role models to the children of the township, to teach them to resist temptation to do wrong, and to build a relationship based on mutual respect and trust. We will constantly seek to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating ourselves to our chosen profession, that of law enforcement. This is honorably presented this day, the 25th of October, 2021, to Officer Patrick Martinez, badge number 319, in recognition of his commitment in serving the community of Gloucester Township. That's for you, Pat. Another tradition that we have, that when an officer graduates from the police academy, we typically do that, or comes in service, we have our departmental challenge coins. And our department challenge coins, every officer gets them, and every officer gets 2 of these coins with their badge number stamped into it, and it has our ethos on it. It has the things that we strive for here, including compassion, courage, honesty, respect, fairness, and integrity. As a reminder, and these officers are encouraged to carry their coin with them, and on the back it has our motto of dedicated to service, committed to excellence, with the image of St. Michael the Archangel for the protection of our officers. So every officer is encouraged to carry this. Every officer gets these coins, and it's a wonderful tradition that I'm proud to carry on to Officer Patrick Martinez. Congratulations, Pat. Yeah. Tonight's a special night for us. We're here, we'll be honoring one of our police chaplains, but we also have the honor to swear in one of our new police chaplains. So I'd ask Deacon Kenneth Carpinelli to come forward, his family. And I'll talk a little bit about our chaplain program in a moment. These are volunteers. They are members of our community that support our police mission through their blessed work of being a chaplain. And Deacon Kenneth Carpinelli was ordained as a deacon for the Episcopal Diocese of New Jersey in January of 2019. Deacon Carpinelli is currently serving at the historic St. John the Evangelist Episcopal Church in Chews Landing, just down the road here in Gloucester Township. Deacon Carpinelli recently retired as a school psychologist in the Gloucester Township School District, working for the Gloucester Township School District for the past 27 years. And we've gotten to know each other over that time in that capacity. And so it was an easy transition for all of us, knowing each other. Deacon Carpinelli enjoys spending time with his wife of 28 years, Amy, his daughter, Rachel, and his rescue dog, Katie did. We are proud to have Deacon Carpinelli join our Gloucester Township Police Community Chaplains. And so, Mayor, Council President Mercado, I respectfully request that you swear in Deacon Carpinelli as a Gloucester Township Police Community Chaplain.
Deacon, if you could please raise your right hand, put your left hand on the Bible, and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Kenneth Carpinelli,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I further solemnly swear
I further solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all my responsibilities
perform all my responsibilities
as a chaplain
as a chaplain
for the Gloucester Township Police Department
for the Gloucester Township Police Department
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations and thank you.
So it's a special night for us because we're taking this opportunity. We have Deacon Ken who's coming on board, and we have a very, I would say, unique working relationship and program with our police chaplains. And I just want to take a moment to explain, what does a police chaplain do? These are volunteers that come out to do nothing. They don't get paid. They do nothing but support us. They don't get paid. They're on call at all different hours, but they bring something very special to our police department. They bring a service to us in their specialty of compassionate, caring service to those that we encounter in very bad times. They're here to support us in good times, but most of the time they're here to support us in our difficult times. Those times where we have to make a death notification. Those times where we're handling a crash scene. Those times when we have a violent crime that occurred and we have people that are emotionally upset and don't quite understand what the police are doing as far as conducting their investigation. These chaplains respond middle of the night, during the day, all hours. They rotate. And they come on board with us, working side by side with the officers. And they give the officers a resource that we just wouldn't have if you didn't do it. They bring comfort. They bring a prayer. They bring God into a situation that is very bad, and that's very comforting to many people. I've seen it happen. I've seen incidents where there's tension. There is distrust. There is just emotions, and our chaplains show up on the scene, and you can see the temperature lower. And the officers, when it was new to the officers, we weren't sure how we were going to incorporate it, but it didn't take long with the crew of chaplains that we have to see how successful this program was. So successful that it's being emulated through many other towns. The policy's gone out, training's gone out, the cooperation's gone out. Barriers are built, knocked down because of the work that these chaplains have done. And tonight, we're here to honor Pastor Linda Davis, who in 2018 came on board when we started the program under then Chief Earl, and we have grown. So Pastor Davis, if you'll come forward, we want to honor you. Pastor Linda Davis started her journey as a police chaplain 29 years ago as a civilian police chaplain for the town of Hempstead, Long Island, New York. Since then, she has worked as a professional chaplain in healthcare and hospice services, as well as the New Jersey Department of Corrections. Pastor Davis began her service as a chaplain for the Gloucester Township Police Department on May 16, 2018. And it came about, and it's a great source of pride, it came about, the program came about with a conversation that Mayor had with Pastor Davis about growing and getting fully functioning community chaplains to work side by side with our officers. And we've really made it come a long way. And it's hard for me to even put in words how successful this program has been for our officers and for all those, really the victims, the families, and those that they've touched. That's who's really benefited from it. Pastor Davis is leaving her work as pastoral caregiver to pursue her doctoral degree, and we wish you all the best and prayers with that. In her retirement, she'll be focusing on her family and that pastorate. Pastor Davis's husband, Darrell, is here tonight to join us. Many other distinguished guests from her family. And on a personal note, I just want to thank you. You and I have had some very candid conversations. You've always been there to answer when I had a question. And I am forever grateful for your guidance and your words of wisdom and your support, more than anything, your support in difficult times over some of those times over the year. And your guidance has been invaluable to me, and I'm forever grateful. So on behalf of Mayor and Gloucester Township Police Department, we want to present this small memento for you, your remembrance for your service with us in recognition of your dedicated service to the Gloucester Township community since the inception of the Gloucester Township Police Department's chaplain program on May 16th of 2018 until your conclusion of it on September 1st, 2021. The men and women of the Gloucester Township Police Department extend our best wishes to Pastor Davis in all her future endeavors. This is just a small token of our appreciation for all that you've done for us. Thank you, Pastor.
Pastor Davis, Pastor Linda, I remember our first conversation. I remember visiting your church. I remember the many conversations that we have had and the passion that you have for the ministry and the compassion that you have for people. Now, I'm very happy for you that you are continuing that passion, that you are going on for your doctorate and continuing that ministry. And that's good for everybody. But I'm sad for us because you're moving on and you played a big role in our chaplain program here. And, you know, I've seen the work of our chaplains, whether it was helping fire victims or at a scene of a crash. And that you provide peace for people. All of our chaplains do. But thank you for that passion that you have and that compassion that you have. And I wish you the very, very, very best.
Wow. To my husband, who has been patient when I get up in the wee hours of the night. And one particular moment, and to my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law's here, and to Dr. Daheem Watson is here to support me, and to my fellow chaplains, who could ever forget Deacon Pete, and to Pastor, and to our new chaplain, and to all of the officers, everyone that I've been able to go on a call with, the wee hours of the night. I've had an opportunity to learn a little bit about some of you all, and the relationship has been incredibly special. To Erica and the community department. And there's one particular time, I will say this, that I had a very terrible car accident in 2017. And my husband 2018 was in the hospital. And I was still had the scar of the accident in my mind, in my heart. I was still dealing with it. I guess you'd call it PTSD or whatever, the trauma of it. And I was talking to my husband on the phone. And of course, he was in the hospital for 2 months, and I was home by myself. And I got a call from dispatch, and they said, we have a car accident. There's been a death in a car accident. And my husband was on the other line, and I just sighed and I said, can you believe that they're calling me for a car accident, a death? And my husband said, and you're gonna go. And I said, should I go? I'm not sure if I'm gonna be effective. He says, no, you're gonna do what you do best. And you're gonna go to that car accident. And you're gonna go on that call. And it was a Gloucester Township, a teacher, a young teacher that had died suddenly from a car accident here at, I believe, Choose Landing Elementary School, I believe. And just to go on that call and be with the family, I wouldn't say it was rewarding, but I'm glad I went. I'm glad I was a presence, because the comfort that was needed and the spiritual presence that was needed to help them in their time of devastation. She was so young. She was so young, and I was glad I went. Thank you to the mayor for giving me an opportunity and to hearing what I had to say. He just listened, and I thank you. To Chief, he wasn't the chief when I came on, but I'm so happy that I'm here to see his elevation. And he's a deacon. He's a preacher, no. And he's a deacon, and he loves God. And that's a very important component. That's next. And to our president, thank you. To everyone. Thank you to everyone, to all of the chiefs and captains and lieutenant, and to my officer back there. She said, I heard they were doing something for you, and I showed up, and we were on some really devastating calls, and I thank you. Will you keep me in your prayers if you ever think of me, and just say, God, will you help Pastor Linda on her next journey? I will appreciate your prayers. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to my family that's watching via Zoom, they're watching from Memphis, from all over the country, my ecclesiastical endorsement from New York, from Long Island. They're watching from Virginia. So thank you all for taking the time. I love everyone. Thank you.
Pastor, I think we'd be remiss, and I think you would appreciate, if I could ask all of the chaplains that are present that came, please stand and be recognized, please. Just all that are here. Always be part of the Gloucester Township Police family. You'll be in our prayers. Thank you. Let's get a picture.
We're going to take a 10-minute recess.
You gotta get the hug. Come on, anybody, let's get a picture, please. You were a student, must come to you. Oh my God.
All right, sir. Good. I'm going to take yourself to see you. Man. How you doing, okay? All right. You take care, my friend. Huh? Stay brother, huh? Yep. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
It's here, right, guys?
Nothing but excitement. It's good stuff. We're growing. Hopefully we'll continue to grow. I don't know. I haven't talked to them before. They also called. They were going to get together. That just never materialized. Just trying to keep my kid on the straight and narrow. Some of this different things. 16, start 16 minutes. Yeah, that's fine.
Deacon Ken. Deacon.
Oh, wow. Sorry. Mr. President.
Oh, how are you?
No, that's good. Video.
What? I know.
I don't know. Right hand man being sworn in. Sure. Yeah. Hold it up long enough. I'll use my turn. We're getting orders from I'm I'm the one that unplugged it, puts it back in, that's all. Yeah, so you guys have a good night. Come on, man. Go get some rest, dude. How's it going to jacket off? So it's interesting. It's like, oh, we're lucky to get on there in 20 minutes.
Hey, how you been, buddy?
I see you standing over there, and I'm thinking, who the hell?
I know, right?
You standing there like that?
Oh, what do you got?
You're gonna swear I'm blowing smoke up your ass. Look at this whole picture. You know this guy?
He does look familiar. Is that you?
Yeah, my Juan Valdez mustache back in '91. You know this guy, don't you?
Oh, the stash?
No, the guy in the center. It's a.
Oh, from Philly, right? Mayor.
You got it.
Why would you want to play?
Standing there like he stood there.
Oh, really?
Right for his last Friday. Dude, I drove. Are you serious? You tell by that baby was.
His legs can't clean So they asked me if I went behind the house.
Oh, really?
So of course in the time you do a big
Sure.
you shut the street down, you make
Wow.
all kinds of food. And however he passed away, so he was on elections.
Oh, no kidding. Is that what happened? Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
And you're standing there like this, and thinking, oh my God, he's just a friend. That's about a good
People have no
compliment.
no.
Yo, tell him yes.
That's funny. I'll say I was at
You gave the values.
We gotta wait till you do that.
I don't know. I should have pulled off for that, so we're okay.
Sounds good.
Thank
All right. Madam Clerk, may I have the roll call again, please?
Mr. Hutchison.
Present.
Ms. Briggs. Here. Mr. Mann.
Here.
Mrs. Winters. Here. Mr. Mercado.
Present.
Mr. Carlemere.
Here.
Mr. Cardis.
Here.
Mr. Lechner.
Here.
Chief Harkins. Mr. Chavo.
We were scheduled to have a closed session, but the individual that's going to be part of that closed session is not here. If she does appear towards the end of the meeting, we'll have it at the end of the meeting. Okay, we'll now have our first public portion. This is for agenda items only. Anyone can address council, may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turns, they may address council a second time. Each speaker is entitled to 3 minutes, and the public portion is for 15 minutes total. Would anyone like to speak on agenda items only? Mr. Heimball.
Peter Heinbald, 2 Morningstar Court. Good evening.
Good evening, Pete.
First, I sent an email with a couple questions to Mr. Cardis, and he did respond, so thank you for that.
Thank you for doing that, Mr. Cardis and Mr. Heimball.
The agenda item where we're receiving the COVID relief money, roughly 3.4 million. The published number that I remember seeing for the total 2-year receipt, 2-year fund receipt for COVID relief was 7.6 million, which if we receive half this year and half next year, would equate to 3.8 million each year. Is there what makes up that $400,000 difference from what I was expecting?
Mr. Cardis.
The federal government revised the amount of money that we.
No kidding. So we'll get 3.4 also again next year.
Yes.
So 6.8 is our revised number. This Gloucester Township's revised.
3.399.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I also saw we did receive these funds in June. Was there a reason we're waiting till October to recognize them on the agenda?
It's a formality. What it is it's a chapter 159. So it establishes a line item. In this particular case, it will go under a grant and it will be assigned a number under that grant.
Okay. Also, has any of that money, grant money, been since received in June? Has any of it been spent to date?
Well, you have a budget, you're putting a budget together. this money that's coming in, and again, it's in two installments.
Yeah.
One now, and then we get one in 2022. It's to offset losses that the township may have incurred in revenue for this past year. So as the administration, Mr. Carr's put together a budget, they'll work with the CFO and determine what type of losses we may have incurred this past year, revenue losses. So that may be allocated towards that and may be allocated to other projects such as stormwater management. Is there anything else, Mr. Carr? Okay.
Will that budget be presented to council and require approval by council?
I don't believe so.
I don't think that's
Not necessary.
Is it
That's
been,
something that would be shared with us, of course.
so it hasn't been completed? This budget has not been finalized yet?
No, is that correct, Mr. Carter?
That's correct, and I recently was on a Zoom, CEU that talked about that. Actually, the moderator was the new director for the Division of Local Government Services, and I believe it was about 68% of the municipalities have not formulated a budget yet on this. A lot of that confusion comes from the federal government and what you can and cannot spend it on. As you know, you have to spend this money by December 31st of 2024. Most municipalities want to dot the i's, cross the t's, and make sure that they'll withstand any future audit by the federal government after setting up the spending line items and spending money.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense.
Anything else?
Yes, also, agenda item on the bill list, there's some bills paid to the consultant triad related to, and two of the bills related to the Market to Affordable program. Wonder if we could hear an update on the progress of the Housing Authority's Market to Affordable program.
I don't have an update. I can provide that for you at our next meeting.
Okay, Housing Authority Liaison Grace does not have an update for us?
I feel
Ms.
bad.
Grace?
I feel really bad. I was on the call the last meeting, but I was having technical difficulty. So I didn't hear, and I did type in the chat that I was having technical difficulty. So I didn't hear everything that was said.
Okay,
So I apologize.
okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heimball. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, this first public portion. Ordinance, it's the first reading. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance 0-21-12. Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance 0-04-13, repealing and adopting the Blackwood West redevelopment plan in accordance with NJSA 48-12A1 et sec, local redevelopment and housing law. This past week, Mr. Lechner had forwarded this past Thursday to all the members of council the revised redevelopment plan for Blackwood West submitted by T&M. This ordinance will replace the current existing plan for that area. I encourage my colleagues to leaf through it some more. It basically updates, I'll give you an example, box stores and those types of businesses in 2004 were all the rave, and now we've gone to e-commerce and people purchasing things online. So one of the things that's taken into consideration is the type of businesses that could be permitted and work in downtown Blackwood. It brought in the makerhood that was presented by Mr. His name escapes me, Jeffrey Teicher, a few months ago regarding downtown Blackwood. So all of those things are encompassed in the Blackwood West redevelopment plan, and that's just a small summary of it. But we could field more questions at our second hearing and second reading of the ordinance. With that, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Ms. Grace?
Yes.
Mr. Vignon?
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next is ordinance 0-21-11, Ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, adopting amendment number 6, amending ordinance 0-04-13, entitled the Blackwood West Redevelopment Plan in accordance with NJSA 48-12A-1 et sec, local redevelopment and housing law. What this does, it adds the following to permitted uses: office use and accessory vehicles of an electrician, painter, plumber, and similar establishments at 534 North Black Horse Pike, Block 10501, Lot 9, and that is subject to a memorandum agreement by the redevelopment entity. We'll now open up the public hearing on this ordinance. Seeing none, close the public hearing. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have our items of consent agenda. Any council member would like to have any item removed, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes. Mr. Minio?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes, I did not receive any GTE Gov Access emails. We'll now open up our second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak on any subject matter may address council. Each speaker is entitled to 5 minutes, and there is a 30-minute time limit. And once everyone has spoken, if they choose to speak again, they may speak if we have time permitting. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council. Brian Burns, 5 Silver Drive, Ariel.
Mr. Burns, how are you this evening?
Good, good. I wanted to say thank you to, I guess it was maybe Tom or Mr. Lechner who got the Green Acres sign out that I had requested at the last meeting. On Gloucester Township, I guess Gloucester Township Talk. It was just shy of 100 favorable comments about the preservation of the Rosalind Bridge property. I know some people have gone out already and explored it and loved it, and then would tell me they never knew it was there. I went to check with Mr. Carlemere to see where we are with the assessment for the Murray property and the Hayes properties. I think it's been about 6 weeks since both property owners returned their form saying they were interested in preserving the properties.
We received a report my office has from the assessor. Communication has gone out to the 2 property owners. Responses came back favorable. Naturally, everything is subject to the final appraisals and all of that. So format of letters of intent or agreements are being formulated and probably be communicated out shortly to the property owners.
That's wonderful. Thank you for your efforts. On kind of a different matter, a couple of people brought up at the last meeting the notice of 200 or of residents within 200 feet of a new building or construction of some sort. And I don't know, some people just don't know how far 200 feet is. You know, if you didn't work with construction or tools or build things when you were younger during the course of your life, 200 feet is like from here to where we park our cars outside. It's not very far. And I'm wondering if council would reconsider that distance, because 200 feet is really nothing. And today I went by Sycamore Road, where we're putting up that gigantic storage place. It's like 2 stories high. And I saw an elevator shaft. And I felt so bad for those people who live on that perimeter, who used to look at a mature forest and now are staring at this ugly thing. And it has to depreciate their home values. I mean, I wouldn't move into a house like that if my backyard was a 2-story, storage building. So, I mean, I'm throwing it out there. And I think it's a reasonable request. I have a super Wawa going in, right up the corner for me. And it's just beyond, it seems 200 feet is not reasonable.
That's statutory. And, when I get into legal matters, I'll defer to Mr. Carlemere. But I would imagine any applicant, if they're in other municipalities and throughout the state of New Jersey at 200 feet is the law, and then Gloucester Township goes around and says, no, we're going to change it, that's going to cause a problem for us as a municipality. Mr. Carlemere?
Well, that's correct. The statute, in the regulation for noticing residents within 200 feet or property owners within 200 feet of an application to come in for some type of development. This legislation, state of New Jersey, that's the land use law. It says you notify everyone within 200 feet. That's a burden of the applicant. So if the municipality tries to say, no, everybody within 1,000 feet, you'll get a pushback because the applicant says, I'm not obligated to do that. I'm not obligated to expend that cost. Has to be certified proof of certified mail sent out. But the applicant is also required to notice in the local newspaper of the application and what the applicant is seeking. And that all has to be published at the applicant's expense.
And that's just not the big storage unit developer, that's Joe Public, who may have an addition to his home.
Correct.
Or they're putting up a pole barn, and they have to appear before the zoning board. They're gonna notice those people, all those people within 200 feet of that, and then advertise in their paper and provide proof that they've certified and notified all these individuals.
So the burden is on the homeowner to find it in a newspaper.
The applicant, whoever it may be, whether it's a residential or commercial development.
I understand that. He can put it in a newspaper, but the burden to find it is on a resident who lives in the house who's going to be impacted by this, whatever it is that's going in. Is there any gray wiggle room that the township in their newsletter can say, here's what's coming in, without the due diligence and the hassle of finding every resident within, let's say 1,000 feet? You know what I mean? I would be incredibly upset if 200 feet from my house,
That notice has to be published and served 10 days prior to the hearing date. So newsletters come out once a month,
Quarterly.
quarter. So there's no way a newsletter of the local municipality like Gloucester Township will notice that because you might have several applications in that quarter period of time.
Yeah, you have to understand, I understand your side. And I don't know, enough about policies and protocols and how townships work, but I think you can see my point. If you just close your eyes and pictured your house, and one day you woke up and the sound of, excavators and bulldozers are making a ruckus, and you think, what the heck's going on? And you find out they're wiping out, just 205 feet from your house. They're building whatever it is. And you didn't know about it. And you'd be pretty upset, I think. I know I would be upset. So I don't, you guys have the knowledge of how townships works, and if there's a way to, not circumvent, but make it notice to the people who are going to be impacted by the construction and developments that are taking place all over, you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there. If anybody else here tonight has knowledge of a way to, make it easier for homeowners to be aware of what's going in around them beyond 200 feet. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Is there anyone else? Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the Historic Village of Ariel.
Good evening.
Mr. Heinball briefed on the market to affordable. As far as not having a status as to where this is at, I do remember a conversation that we asked how this all came about. And if I remember correctly, Council had initiated an ordinance to allow this, the Housing Authority to do so. Would it not be so that if this has proven to be, and it surely has been proven to be useless and extremely costly, has Council spoken about, thought about, or maybe took an opportunity to see if another ordinance would be in order to remove that same ordinance that allows that? This is going on month after month, and money keeps going out, nothing's coming in. I know that there was a hope chest opportunity that maybe something would materialize from it, but that's not going to happen. Being that it's not going to offset or improve the numbers, the township is doing what it has to do to keep up the numbers that the state requires. We're doing what needs to be done. The market to affordable, with the market the way that it is and the revenues that a market valued home would bring in, would still be substantial. I keep asking periodically because it just sits and wait and money keeps going out. Is it time for you guys to put together an ordinance and bring this thing to a halt and just dissolve it because it's useless, but it's costing a lot of money.
I think we'll take a look at it and review it. At the time when this came about, the market was certainly not what it is now. We talked about, and you brought it to our attention many times, and now the foreclosures that we had in our township. And this was an opportunity to have affordable housing for individuals and take some of those properties and put it out on the market. So I think it's a time to reassess. Thankfully, you brought this, you keep talking about it, and that's fine. But we need to take a look at it and get an update. And maybe at the next meeting or the next few meetings, we'll have an update for you.
Okay, because with each meeting and each passing month, there's more, maybe we can turn the spigot off the money going out and make a good move. It would be great. And we'll still keep doing what we're doing in construction and building the affordable homes that we are and putting people in homes in our township. Status on the, for lack of a better word, the land deal between the Housing Authority and Gloucester Township. Every time this is brought up, it's in litigation, can't be talked about. Is that still in litigation and still can't be spoken of?
It wasn't in litigation.
Or it's in the hands of finalizing or attorney reviews? What is the holdup that the?
I don't have any update for you, Mr.
I
Carter.
have not had an update from the attorneys.
Do we have the names of the attorneys on both sides that are involved in this that don't seem to be moving so quickly?
The particular attorneys, the Housing Authority's attorney is the Dakota's firm, I believe, and Archer Grinder's firm represents the township.
Okay. All right. Is this, are they the only two firms? Do we need to send an Oprah for that, or is that basically one-on-one?
Well, you could try sending an Oprah for that, but I don't think you'll get responses.
Because it's not a
Right now,
document,
it's
more or less.
negotiating contracts and it has an exemption. But they're the firms that are handling respective parties involved in that.
Okay. I look forward to your consideration on that ordinance too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everybody have a safe night.
Thank you, Ray. You as well. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Evening, President Mercado, and all members, council members in attendance. I just wanted to applaud you for the efforts and willingness to hold events for the township. Recent events include the Pumpkin Festival, the Gloucester Township Food and Craft Beer Festival, and Trunk or Treat 2021. However, all these events have been canceled. Last minute, it seems. And I'm looking for a root cause so that we can dialogue on future events so that they get planned and so they do not get planned and then shortly after canceled. Do you know the reason why they're getting canceled? Is it because of lack of volunteers or vendors? I know personally I have given my email and phone number and have never been called or received an email. So, I'm not sure. I'm just trying to dissect the reason.
Okay. Can I have your name again?
Danielle
Your last name?
Hermitsky.
Your address? You could say where you live in town, Blackwood, Blind.
Blackwood, yes.
All right.
Blackwood State.
Okay. So at our last meeting, that was brought up. That was an eGov question regarding the three events that we have here in town. So the Pumpkin Festival, that is an event that is organized and benefits Maine State Center for the Arts.
Okay, yeah.
That's located in downtown Blackwood, next to the library. That event, the resources that are used to put that event is the township, Public Works, the police department, and but the beneficiary of that event is Maine State Center for the Arts. In order to have that event run, Maine State Center for the Arts needs a slew of volunteers to participate in that. Maine State Center for the Arts decided not to move forward because they did not have the volunteers to move forward with that event. So that was Maine State Center of the Arts call. The second event, the beer and food truck event, that is an event that benefits the Gloucester Township Scholarship Committee, which is also a nonprofit, just as Main Stage is. That involves volunteers. I serve on that scholarship committee because I raise money and organize the Gloucester Township's 5K race. So I'm part of the emails that I receive when they look for volunteers and look for people to work that event. Have you attended that event in the past? Okay. It's a big event. Not as big as the Pumpkin Festival, but it's a big event. And the vendors that were there in previous years, there was a lack of vendors that were going to participate in that event. So essentially, it was just going to be beer, and not a lot of food vendors and trucks that were going to be available there on the Black Horse Pike. So that's why that event was canceled. The third event is Trunk or Treat. And Trunk or Treat has been part of Gloucester Township since 2014. And that came about because we had some citizens that were saying that the mayor is trying to cancel Halloween, which is far from the truth in 2013. Each year, Township puts out a resolution indicating that the hours for trick-or-treating is from 2 to 7:30 and encouraging people to trick-or-treat in their neighborhood, to go to house parties. So I went to the mayor and said, let's have the largest trunk-or-treat in town. And we have about 4,000 to 5,000 people that are in Veterans Park from 7 to 9:30, sometimes 10 o'clock at night, with 60 cars that are giving out candy to thousands of kids. I did not feel comfortable as the organizer of that event, the one that works on that event, to make sure, to ensure everyone's safety and having that amount of people there. Because the people that give out candy are volunteers. And they're taking money out of their pocket to give out candy. And this is open to anyone. The main complaint, chief complaint I received over the years is that we have people coming from out of town to our event. So I did not feel, and it's open to anyone. I could care less who comes. They want to come and get 60 pieces of candy and take hay rides and listen to music and look at costumes, have a wonderful evening, because it is. But this year, we need to put a pause on it. So I pulled the plug on that one and told the mayor that I was not going to move forward with organizing that. There are several trunk or treats in the area that are taking place, smaller ones. Those trunk or treats are invitation only, or you have to pay to participate in it. So those are the reasons why all those 3 events were canceled. They will be back most likely in the fall of next year. And just to add to that, we do have a Martin Luther King Day of Service here, where we have 800 people that participate in our last MLK Day. Have you ever participated in that? You have? Okay, at C.W. Lewis, there's 800 people that participate in there. I, at this point, do not feel comfortable having that event in C.W. Lewis at this point. Do you have any further questions?
No, but I think, well, like on the website, like all it says is that it's canceled. And then, you know, because I walk around my neighborhood personally,
Okay.
and people, you know, they question that, and they're like, oh, so-and-so had the trunk or treat, or is having it, rather, if it didn't take place already. And, you know, they're comparing us to other townships, and all they see from their perspective is you look on here, and this is canceled, canceled, canceled. And then they start talking, oh, other townships have these events. So, like, they don't know. And the website's not really, I mean, all it says is canceled. And what
I
it does-
think on the Facebook, the township's Facebook page, it had indicated for Main Stage, Pumpkin Festival, and also for the Food Truck Festival, lack of volunteers and lack of vendors. That was the excuse. I don't know about trunk or treat. I don't believe there was one, but I have no problem in providing that information of why it was canceled.
Right, but this isn't on the website. I mean, not everybody has Facebook, and not everybody likes the township page.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if people don't, like, you know, these are people with kids and, you know, they may not even have Facebook.
Okay, I can speak to our our website individuals that put stuff on there and maybe add a little bit more language to it in the future. But those events have passed. But in the future, I'll take that in consideration and also let Mr. Carson administration know about that.
Right, and then, well, will there be future events?
I am not sure at this point. Normally, there are, in the month of December, there is a tree lighting ceremony that usually takes place. I'm not sure if that is the plan. Chief, do you know anything, or Tom?
I don't think a final decision, and the Blackwood Christmas
Christmas
parade
parade.
is also still pending. It is on the schedule now, and we're preparing for it, but that's the decision of Blackwood Fire Company.
And just before our meeting, I was watching the news, and FDA approval for children between the ages of 5 and 12 to receive COVID shots is imminent. So that makes me feel a little bit better about having these events where we have a lot of children that are present. I work in a school district. I see the COVID numbers for students and for staff on a daily basis. That was the basis of my decision with trunk or treat. Is there anything else I can answer for you? All right, thank you. Look forward to you attending all those events next year. Okay? Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Good evening. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in Millbridge Gardens Apartments on Millbrook Road. It's apartment 341.
Nice to see you again.
It's written 1341 Blackwood Clementon Road, apartment 341, Clementon, New Jersey, 08021. That's according to the Division of Motor Vehicles of the state of New Jersey. I was told by word of mouth that it changed to 341 Millbridge Road, even though I live on Millbrook. 341 Millbridge Road, Clementon, New Jersey, 08021. I was also told by word of mouth I can write it 341 Millbridge Apartments, or Millbridge Apartments number 341. Mail gets returned to all the addresses. I do not read a newspaper regularly, as Mr. Burns was suggesting. I don't read a newspaper regularly to be informed of anything, including something as important as a change of address, let alone if I was a homeowner and they were going to put a building near my apartment. And that young woman was trying to say, you suggested that she didn't volunteer. You were asking if she had volunteered. The Martin MLK Volunteer Day, they do not offer transportation of any kind to get to C.W. Lewis. I don't even know where it's located. I grew up in Williamstown. It's one county over. It's not far, but it's extremely far when you don't have a car. Especially if you don't know where you're going. And if you've only ever been in a car and drove, you don't know any shortcuts. You have to take the road. I don't know how to get to C.W. Lewis. I tried to volunteer for your event. I also do not have access to Facebook. In the past, I have opened an account, but I do not have a smartphone. It will not go online, even though I get notifications from Facebook onto this phone. I received an actual cell phone came to my doorstep. I had to call the non-emergency phone number to tell the police and come pick this phone up. I don't know whose it is. It has my name on it. It has a cell company that represents me. They told me to throw it away. I asked a family member if she could please drive it because she drives to a recycling center. I don't know if she did because now she won't return my phone calls. So the Facebook to notify people, the phone to notify people. But you know what I do is I walk. And on Kelly Drivers Road, outside Commerce One Plaza, right before it intersects with Blackwood Clementon Road, there's a small section of sidewalk that has not been completed. It goes around a utility pole. Maybe they missed it. Maybe they needed an additional permit because it's attached to a pole. I don't know. There's a utility pole in it, and that portion of the sidewalk is just stones. As I walk to pick up my groceries, I try to kick the stones back in. I did call the 856-228-4000, the municipality number, and shuffled through a bunch of different departments. They told me it's the responsibility of the owner of the Commerce One Plaza to complete the sidewalk. It's sidewalk, I guess, they're the ones that need to finish it. It's deceiving, if you have a chair, a wheelchair, or a disability, I can only imagine, you see the sidewalk, you would use the sidewalk, but then you have nowhere to go once you see there's this one patch, it's just not complete. Is that something that you bring up at these meetings?
Yes, okay, all right, so, all right,
Because I wasn't notified of this meeting being longer today either, as you suggested. I don't read the newspaper regularly.
what do you mean longer, or starting early, or long, what do
This
you mean
meeting
longer?
changed. It used to begin at 7 p.m.,
No,
7:30,
7:30.
but then there was like a workshop or something today, something.
We had a redevelopment meeting, a short 15-minute, 10-minute meeting for you.
I didn't know about it.
Okay, that's advertised, that's how it's advertised, it's advertised.
When you get
on-
here,
On our web, no, it's advertised on our website, it's advertised
I
in the
pay for
paper.
internet, I don't have a device to see it.
So, well, I'm gonna tell you now, our meetings start 7:30, second and fourth Monday of each month. There's a workshop at the first, on the second meeting, at 6:30. Sometimes, there's not agenda items, and sometimes we cancel that. But the 7:30 meetings, second and fourth Monday of each month, that is standard. Nothing has changed. Okay, as far as that sidewalk there on Kelly Driver around the pole,
I sent a postcard to the owner, I was
Excuse
able to
me?
call the tax assessment office, and they told me the address of the people that own that little Commerce Plaza. And I sent them a postcard. Just,
Okay.
hello.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Cardis, to contact our Public Works Department and have them take a look at it. Is it on the right-hand side?
It's on the sidewalk side of the Commerce One Plaza.
On the bank side.
Yeah, the Commerce One Plaza it's on Kelly Drivers Road across the street.
Yes.
There's the parts of the La Cascada. There's the one side street that, I don't know where it goes. You can take it to get to the 7-Eleven if you're going. There's also an Advanced Auto Parts store there. But on the other side of the street, which is the Commerce One Plaza, as I identified it earlier, where it intersects with Blackwood Clementon Road, and it's on Kelly Drivers Road, is where there's just one small square that didn't get finished.
Okay.
And there's stones in it, and the stones come out, and I kick them back in. But it's just one square concrete.
Okay, we'll contact the Public Works Department, have them take a look at it, and reach out to, Commerce Square. Is there anything else?
Yeah, how would I get information?
How would you get information? So, again, our council meetings are standard. The dates have not changed of when we meet. We have a weekly newsletter that the mayor sends out via email
No
that you
paper.
can sign up for. Excuse me?
There's no paper.
No. There's a newsletter that goes out 3 times a year that has a list
I
of
received
events.
That'll have recycling information on their town events.
Okay. There
Accommodations.
are electric signs that we have in downtown Blackwood.
Where
There's
in downtown? I live in Millbridge Gardens Apartments.
I am aware. Okay, downtown Blackwood by the Rite Aid.
What bus is that?
I wouldn't know the bus, I'm sorry.
Because you see, the 459 bus will only bring me to either Sicklerville. It will go through Camden County College, and from what I understand, there's a junction of buses that meet there. But other than that, I would need to go to Lindenwold High Speed Line, either take the 403, is it? To
I
the
don't
city of
know any of the
Camden,
bus
which is the main
lines.
junction where I could then get a bus to the Black Horse Pike, which is in Blackwood. And I live in this town, but I can't get a bus to there. So for me to go read your
So
technical sign.
there are newsletters that go out 3 times a year. Again, our website, there are times when there's emergencies, police emergencies, Mixel,
I have Mixel.
which you can sign up for and receive information. So there are several ways to receive information. Or you could always contact the switchboard here, also in the front office here.
Is that the clerk I would speak to?
No, you can ask the switchboard 228-4000.
That leads you to a computer prompt that has upwards of 8 or 9 different
Well,
departments.
we
And
have-
each department, there's more.
We have a
options.
receptionist that's up there throughout the day. If they're out on lunch or on a break, it may go to that, but you can pound out. Okay? Ms. Shaughnessy, excuse me?
Who?
Who what?
You're saying I could speak to when I call.
Whatever department
website.
that you're interested in speaking to. If you want to speak to the recreation department, you want to speak to the clerk's
If I have
office.
to call in advance to ask if there's been any changes or events going on? each department?
You can contact the mayor's office. If you're not getting
I
information.
called the mayor, he was here today, I saw him, he looks just like his picture, if that's him. He never returned my phone call.
Okay. Well, you could speak to someone in his office regarding that.
No, I left a message.
Okay.
You say you don't have a computer? You said you don't
Yeah,
have?
I bought a computer for my son. See, I had my son when I was 16 years old. He just turned 16. This was back in 1993. And I went to work. I can probably bring you 120 volts, 18 inches above the finished floor from nothing but a hole in the ground. But I can't tell you anything about Google because I was working. Now I don't feel good. I poop blood and stuff. 44 years old.
Okay.
I just want to know how to keep up with your events.
Sounds like telephone calls are private, that's for you.
To call and just ask if there's anything going on with the mental illness diagnosis that they gave me. Do you think that that's helpful? Just call and say, hey, anything change? Was I supposed to have enough time for that?
Ms. Shaughnessy, I've given you a bunch of options. We could discuss that another time. I'm sorry your time is up. Thank you. We have time for one more speaker. Mr. Sweet, you're our last speaker of the evening.
Good evening, Council. Sam Sweet from Ariel.
Good evening, Sam. How are you?
A couple quick questions. Mr. Mercado, you said the workshop is at the second meeting? I thought it was the first meeting.
Did I say second? First meeting, second Monday of the month.
Okay, all right. Mr. Carter said that there's going to be a budget prepared for the 3.4 million. When will that be done? And is that available for public inspection?
Well, he's waiting towards closer to the end of the year and see what type of revenue that we may have lost this past year with the CFO. Also, our auditors and working with them as well. Is that correct?
Right.
So I would anticipate near year's end.
Now, when you say you lost revenue, is it an aggregate or is it specific areas?
Both. Tom?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the calculation. The CFO is working with the federal government with that. It's over a 3-year period, and it does begin with 2021. So she's looking at that right now. She's making some projections. She won't know whether her projections are accurate until she gets to a point where we close out the books. In the interim, we are looking at a potential stormwater remediation project, but it's too early to release that at this point.
Tom, could like a loss of a pilot, like the outlets, is that
Very well
could that be considered?
It could be considered, yes.
But I guess to answer Mr. Hutchinson is if total income doesn't change, like one area went down but one area came up, is it in aggregate? Is it the total income or is it because, hey, the pilot program went down, we lost money?
I believe it's in the aggregate.
Okay, so if the income is still the same, then, all right, thank you. Is there any rules on how much time can pass between a first and second reading for a land use ordinance?
Well, no, there's not. The land use law directs specifically when you want to do an amendment to your ordinance, if that's what you're referring to, it gets referred to your planning board. And then the planning board has a time frame to respond. This present council and councils before that have always deferred to the planning board to as much time as they need, and they always prefer to have planning board input rather than foreclose the planning board. So sometimes things move slower on the planning board side. They're all volunteers. Sometimes there's illnesses or they don't have a quorum, so the docket keeps getting pushed. But before you do an amendment on your land use law, it has to get reviewed and recommended by the planning board. Then council gets it for second reading.
So, but there's no time frame. It could be years,
Well, there can
months.
be a time frame if you want to foreclose your planning board. You can say, well, your time is up, you haven't responded, so we don't care what you're going to say, we're going to move forward. So that can happen because the statute allows a time limit for the planning board or requires a time limit for the planning board to respond. If they don't respond, a municipal government can move forward with their amendment without input from their planning board. But as long as I've been sitting here, prior council way back, 20-some years, have always deferred to the planning board and waited for them to give a proper review.
Okay, thank you. And my last one is, no one got back to me on the EDC, my question from 2 weeks ago.
I haven't received that information yet.
Okay,
So had I received it, I would have returned, I would give you that information. As soon as I find out, I will let you know.
all right.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right,
Thank you.
I'll see you Wednesday. Black with red?
Wednesday.
What you play?
Yeah, Wednesday I'm playing
Yeah.
Blackwood,
Yeah.
Blackwood, the white team.
Oh, you are? Oh.
Yes, I'm
We're playing
Blackwood red.
Saturday? All right, okay.
But you'll see us on
I'll see you
Saturday for the fundraiser and trunk and treat.
Yeah,
Blackwood Kiwanis. Not that I'm plugging.
I know you're
So,
in that
sorry,
team
sorry,
hat.
Mr.
It
Mr.
hurts-
Mignon.
It hurts you to wear that Blackwood hat, doesn't it?
It's for Bloodhounds.
Yeah, okay.
Ariel did not do a fall ball, so.
No, I'm glad you're participating in that. It's glad that we have our kids out there playing.
Yep, and we'll see you for the softball, correct?
I wanted to, but I have a prior commitment. That's at 6:30, correct?
6:30. What about
I told Mignon about it.
what about the rest of council?
I think it's gonna rain.
My kid struck out every single time he stepped up at a plate one year.
Hutchel played this T-ball. Okay, thank you, Sam.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, with that, we'll close public portion. Polling of directors,
Mr. Parliament,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cordis,
nothing to report.
Mr. Lechner,
Nothing to report.
Chief Harkins.
I just want to thank council for this evening, for the recognition and giving us the time. I know it pushed everybody back. I appreciate everybody's time. I also want to acknowledge the finance department and the assistance we received from Triad Associates and the finance department. We applied for a U.S. Department of Justice grant. It was a $60,000 max allowance. We got awarded $59,900 for an officer wellness program. Something we've been trying to get. We're going to work with a police psychologist for pre-screening. We're hoping to cover expenses for 2 to 3 years on this program. So we're really excited about that. And also the Safe and Secure grant, which again, I'll take note, we received another reduction from the state from what we typically receive $90,000. I think we're at $48,600. But again, the finance department and Triad assisted us. Very complicated grants that we wouldn't have been able to even apply to get without their assistance. So I thank Mr. Cardis and the administration, and thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chadwell,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hutchison.
Briefly, I used to try and tell my kids, look at law enforcement as an opportunity to have a career. And my children said no. And recently I had the opportunity to encounter a bunch of the officers in town as they were dealing with an individual who had died and had been in this apartment for a couple of weeks. Nobody knew he was there. And I saw the individual and just, man, I was like, whoa. I backed out and I still think about that. And it's impactful. But one of the young officers that came up there, I think his name was Kelly. Very impressive. Very impressive young man. He looked like he was younger than my youngest son. But he took charge of the situation. And I said to him, how do you do this? How can you do this? And he says, you get used to it. And I'm like, no, I don't think I get used to this. But they had to go into the unit, and they were there for an extended period of time. And I'm like, wow, really impressive. And most people don't understand, and I myself didn't understand how difficult that job is, and how much it can really mess with your head. So I'm glad to see that you got that wellness grant. I think that's wonderful, and I want to throw out some kudos to the guys, and specifically Officer Kelly. Very impressive young man. Thank you.
Ms. Grace.
Just want to thank everyone for coming out, and I agree with everything you just said. Thank you, Chief, and congratulations to the officers sworn in and Chaplain Davis, who is moving on. So everyone have a great night and safe travels home. And thank you.
Mr. Minion?
Congratulations to Patrolman Martina and Chaplain Lyndon Davis. Thank you all for coming out. Everybody be safe and stay dry. Thank you.
Mrs. Winters?
Congratulations to Patrolman Martina. Thank you to the chaplains. It's amazing service that this town has to offer. It's nice to see it advancing and moving forward and growing. And that other towns are possibly even adopting some of those things that we're doing, which is great. COVID, just a reminder, please still keep yourself safe. The numbers are actually locally, at least in our health system, on the rise a little bit. So please be careful. Don't take unnecessary risks and protect yourself and your families. Reminder, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So speak to those females in your lives, mothers, sisters, daughters, aunts, grandmothers, whoever it may be, friends. Remind them that mammogram is key to preventative maintenance and early diagnosis.
Mr. Mercado?
I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Congratulations to Patrolman Martina, Deacon Carpinelli, and I wish the best to Chaplain Pastor Linda Davis. I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening and for writing your comments and your questions. Have a great evening. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Good evening.